Participants. Derek defends increased deportations, interior enforcement as necessary for rule of law and deterrence. Luis argues against broad deportations, stressing limited crime benefits and sizable collateral harms, favors targeted removals plus legalization pathways. Derek, we can start with first principles. A sovereign state has to enforce its laws. If removal orders aren't carried out, we incentivize more unlawful entry and overstay. Interior enforcement, including deportations, restores credibility. We also have evidence that tougher regimes like employer-sanctions in Arizona reduced the unauthorized population. That tells me deterrence works. Luis, sovereignty doesn't excuse ineffective policy. The most rigorous program evaluations of interior enforcement, Secure Communities and 287G, show no meaningful reduction in overall crime. In some cases, victimization of Hispanics rises because communities disengage from police. If the promised public safety payoff doesn't materialize, why accept the social damage? Derek, public safety isn't the only objective. There's fairness to lawful immigrants and workers, and wage protection in sectors where unauthorized labor undercuts standards. If enforcement shrinks unauthorized labor pools, that's a legitimate economic correction. And we do see population responses in high enforcement states, which suggests fewer future violations. Luis, you're inferring a lot from one policy in one state. Even if the population falls, that doesn't prove deportation campaigns are cost-effective. We also have clear evidence of collateral harm, like worse birth outcomes around raids, and robust indications enforcement chills reporting. That weakens policing for everyone. Public safety is harmed, not helped. Derek, then design better. Focus removals on recent entrants and people with serious criminal convictions. Coordinate across neighboring jurisdictions to minimize displacement. Pair interior enforcement with employer compliance so the jobs magnet doesn't just reappear. If the problem is blunt application, the answer is precision, not surrender. Luis, precision helps, but you're still running into trust. When any contact can trigger immigration consequences, victims and witnesses go quiet. That's why many chiefs support firewalling local policing from civil immigration enforcement. If you want cooperation, you cannot make every interaction feel risky. Derek, firewalls can create perverse incentives. You don't want violent offenders slipping through because local jails won't pick up the phone. We need controlled data sharing and booking time checks to identify people with serious flags. That's not every interaction, it's a targeted backstop at custody points. Luis, custody point checks for violent felonies are one thing, routinized holds or detainers for minor offenses are another. The research showing no crime reduction is based on those broader programs. If your approach is truly narrow, you might salvage benefits, but that's not a case for general deportation drives. Derek, narrow doesn't mean toothless. We can triage recent border crosses, fugitives with final orders, and serious public safety threats go to the top. Consistent removal in those lanes re-establishes credibility without sweeping up long-settled families. The message to smugglers and repeat violators changes when consequences are real. Luis, I can live with triage, if it's paired with legalization or status resolution for long-residing, non-criminal populations, and with stronger legal pathways that ease pressure on the system. Otherwise, you're trying to bail out a boat without plugging the hole. Derek, legal pathways matter, but they can't substitute for enforcement. If there's no boundary on overstays or unlawful entry, any new pathway becomes another magnet. Enforcement and pathways are complements, not substitutes. Luis, then let's talk metrics. What does success look like? If crime doesn't fall, if labor markets don't show clear gains net of disruption, if humanitarian costs are large, do we still call it success because removals increased? I'd require evidence on safety, cooperation, and community outcomes to justify continued spending. Derek, fair, measure it. Recidivism among removed offenders, changes in human smuggling flows, employer compliance rates, and unauthorized population trends. If the system isn't moving those needles, recalibrate. But abandoning deportation as a tool announces that immigration law is optional. Luis, not abandoning, prioritizing. Keep removals for serious threats and recent surges, and stand down on people whose primary violation is civil presence. Meanwhile, expand adjudication capacity so asylum and visa cases resolve in months, not years. Long backlogs are a policy choice that creates perverse incentives. Derek, agreed on adjudication capacity. I'd add e-verify with real employer sanctions to hit demand, and bilateral efforts to address smuggling. That reduces the need for downstream removals. Luis, and I'd add guardrails. Don't deputize routine local policing into immigration enforcement, fund community-based victim services, and create clear protections for reporting crimes. Those steps raise safety without amplifying fear. Derek, we're closer than it seems. You're okay with targeted removals. I'm insisting on them being real and consistent. The gap is over breadth. I accept that broad sweeps are counterproductive in many contexts. You accept that zero enforcement is untenable. Luis, exactly. Evidence-guided middle ground, targeted deportations where public safety returns are highest, plus employer enforcement and faster legal channels, that emphasize blanket interior campaigns that show little crime benefit and real social costs. Derek. Then the policy playbook is 1. Prioritize removals for serious offenses, recent unlawful entries. 2. Coordinate regionally to limit spillovers. 3. Enforce employer sanctions. 4. Expand adjudication. 5. Protect crime reporting. That's defensible. Luis, and evaluate continuously. If victimization rises or trust collapses, pull back and reinforce the firewall. Enforcement that undermines safety isn't enforcement, it's self-defeat. Derek, deal. Rule of law plus smarter design, not slogans, should drive the approach. Luis, on that, we agree. Let's make the system predictable, humane, and effective, then hold it to the numbers.